Hey, listener, you know that it comes for everybody at some point, right? Whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, who knows? Who knows when? But you know what I'm talking about. Those dreaded T levels start dropping. Maybe you don't feel as strong as you used to physically. Maybe your workouts, you're not recovering the same way that you used to, right? Maybe you don't have the energy or the focus that you used to get things done. Like you were out there, you were chopping wood and you were arm wrestling people and you were sending emails and filling out Excel sheets and your energy was there. You could do anything. You could pick up a mountain. Well, thankfully, you don't have to battle those low T levels anymore because we got Mars Men. It's not like drinking a cup of coffee where you get a little boost of caffeine and all right, I'm good for like an hour or two, but then I got to keep drinking coffee to keep these levels up. Now I'm all jittery and I can't focus. It's not like that. It's a steadier sense of drive throughout the day. You'll be feeling better in 2026 than you have in the past couple of years. Mars Men supports healthy T levels, energy, and stamina. It's got 8 natural, clinically dosed ingredients. It's made in the USA, and it's third-party tested. There's a 90-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. Over 91% of users report higher energy levels. Thousands of guys are feeling incredible results. Just check out the reviews on the website to see for yourself. For a limited time, our listeners get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. It's a perfect way to kick off the new year strong. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts at checkout. After your purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Support the show, please, and tell them our show sent you.
Reggie, I just sold my car online.
Let's go, Grandpa. Wait, you did?
Yep, on Carvana. Just put in the license plate, answered a few questions, got an offer in minutes. Easier than setting up that new digital picture frame.
You don't say.
Yeah, they're even picking it up tomorrow. Talk about fast.
Wow, way to go. So, about that picture frame.
Forget about it. Until Carvana makes one, I'm not interested.
Car selling made easy. On
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
I'm Richard Serrett. Join me on Strange Planet for in-depth conversations with the world's top paranormal investigators, alien abductees, Bigfoot trackers, monster hunters, time travelers, and more.
The handler one day told her this whole thing about how they've been terraforming on Mars and they're building a colony and they're recruiting specific people of specific bloodlines and specific talents and skill sets to go onto the planet.
On Richard Serrett's Strange Planet, we're redefining reality. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
The comments made by Amin Elhassan are made by him and him himself and nobody else, and not indicative of Basketball Illuminati, Tom Haberstroh, Anthony Mays, or any guest incorporated.
I'm glad we do this show because it's becoming harder and harder to be an NBA fan and not know what's real and what's fake.
Not hard.
Not hard?
It's not hard. People just need to burn 1 calorie.
I don't know, I mean,
2 million people
didn't burn a calorie. I don't even know what you're about to say. I'm just finishing the sentence, blank statement. 2 million people did not burn 1 calorie.
We have a lot of examples here about how the fakeness is overtaking the NBA, and you always have to keep your third eye open on the NBA news. One in particular is it Adam Morrison? I know it's not Adam Morrison NBA, but there's a Twitter account that had a graphic with Scott Foster on it, Amin, and the actual copy, the text in that graphic was breaking. The NBA is investigating head referee Scott Foster following the Lakers game against the Celtics. Multiple goaltending calls were missed throughout the game. Foster will be suspended without pay as the league investigates. I will say this. The goaltending thing was kind of funny to me. I laughed. Multiple goaltending calls? That's the most random. If there was a tell that this was wrong, that this was a fake, I feel like the goaltending line was the thing.
No.
How often are goaltending calls?
I don't know, Tom. I think the part that's fake is them suspending Scott Foster.
Could be.
I admire you guys. You guys are going third eye open.
Open your third eye.
Oh, what are the telltale signs? Oh, that's an odd thing to be suspended. Oh, what's the last referee who got suspended for missing calls? Oh, yes, that is a level of discernment, third eye discernment that is effective. Unfortunately, it involves burning far more than 1 calorie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know the 1 calorie to burn?
Click on his name.
Click on the motherfucker's bio. Jake Morrison.
Tom, breaking news. Jake Morrison, NBA, is back with the new report. Chet Holmgren has come out as gay.
Now what you gonna do, Mr. Statistician Face Man?
Yeah, see, Jake Morrison, there's a couple of these. One was the Hughes.
Scott Hughes.
CBB.
So I had someone text me a Scott Hughes one that the Rockets had to sit down with Kevin Durant over his use of Twitter. It was very explosive, and he walked out, and I said, it's not real. Well, how can you be sure? It's like, because this person isn't real. Well, how can you be sure? I'm like, because look at his bio. It says he writes for Sports Illustrated. Find me a Scott Hughes Sports Illustrated article, and I'll believe it. And my friend was like, well, I'm not going to do all that. That's the point. You would rather just believe. Why? Because what? And I'm going to tell you what. I've said this several times in the last few days.
Yep.
Do you guys remember The X-Files? The show The X-Files?
Mm-hmm.
It's in our intro.
Remember the X-Files movie? The X-Files movie came out several years after The X-Files was canceled. And they had the marketing campaign. The posters were all these pictures of famous conspiracies like UFOs and the Loch Ness Monster, whatever. And the tagline on it would say, I want to believe.
I want to believe.
That's all it's become. It used to be if I wanted to create a conspiracy or propaganda or fake news, I actually had to sit down and write it. And now all people have to do is create a fucking infographic. That's it. Because the people, their minds are doing the rest of the work.
Yeah.
This is not a third eye thing, guys. Dare I say it's not even a second eye. This is one eye open. This is your first eye. A cyclops with 1 calorie of energy to burn.
My favorite part about this is that he didn't even referee the game. It was Scott Foster wasn't even on the game. So all the people who are like, oh, they got him. They finally got Scott Foster. It would take maybe 2 calories to think, wait, was he even on that game? No, but I get it. Scott Foster's the most famous referee. I will point out, however, as we've covered here on Basketball Illuminati, Eric Lewis, it was a Lakers-Celtics game, wasn't it?
Yep, it was.
That preceded the Patrick Beverly thing, the camera.
Mm-hmm.
That was a Lakers-Celtics one where there was a controversial call at the end of the game with Jason Tatum and the block and all that. And so I guess there is a little bit of a thread of the NBA investigating and weird, nebulous way that the NBA...
I guarantee nobody who read that thing and believed it even knows who the fuck Eric Lewis is.
Not anymore.
They just know they don't like Scott Foster, and this thing is anti-Scott Foster, and I knew he was up to no good. And see, here's the thing that confirms my belief.
And Lakers Celtics was rigged for the Celtics.
And why? Why does it confirm my belief? Why does it, without any sort of extra layer of proof?
I want to believe.
This is the same reason why everyone is running with Kevin Durant was tweeting from a burner. Name me the one person who has said a piece of evidence, circumstantial as hell, that proves that it's him. Everyone's just saying, it's him. Why?
I want to believe.
There's no part of this that is based in any sort of reality.
Besides that he's had a burner scandal before.
That's it. Like, okay, so he had a burner. All right. That means anytime you see something that's from a burner that could be in the voice of Kevin, then it's automatically, no, there's no part of this that was like, remember the Brian Colangelo shit? Where we had the guy who did the homework and all the connecting the dots and the real Illuminati work. Okay, you know what? There you go. They didn't do any of that for Kevin Durant. They just said, I think this is him.
Well, how many calories did the NBA burn when they investigated the Indiana Pacers in fining them $100,000? Because according to Rick Carlisle, almost no calories were burned in that investigation.
I put out a statement about it. I didn't agree with it. There was a league lawyer that was doing the interview that kind of unilaterally decided that Aaron Nesmith, who had been injured the night before and couldn't hold the ball, should have played in the game, which just seems ridiculous. And during the interview process, I was not on it, but I heard details. We asked them if they wanted to talk to the doctors, our doctors, about it, because it's something that was documented by our doctors and trainers. They said no, they didn't need to. They talked to their doctors, who did not examine Aaron Neesmith. And we asked them if they wanted to talk to the kid. And they said, no, they didn't need to. So this was shocking. This was shocking to me. And during the interview, they also asked if we'd considered medicating him to play in a game when we were 30 games under 500. So I was very surprised. Obviously didn't agree with it. This is really the first time I've gone into any detail about it, but that was it.
They didn't want to talk to Neesmith. They didn't want to talk to the doctors. They got their own doctors, hit him with the fine. Boom. Done. But going back to Tom's original point, it is getting harder and harder because I burned quite a few calories with this Chris Haynes tweet about Nurkic, who will undergo a surgical procedure on his nose Wednesday that will sideline him for the remainder of the season. Follow-up tweet, Nurk has experienced complications of breathing and sleeping since fracturing his nose a few years ago. Seems legit, right?
Yeah.
When did he fracture his nose?
2 years ago.
Does anybody know?
But Maze, the difference here is the tweet is from someone we've heard of. Let's start there. That's half a calorie. Have I heard of this person? B, reflects the information given to him from the franchise / maybe the guy's agent. Either way, the source is real, even if the information is fictitious. That's why you don't have to burn extra calories. Now, you can, and now what you're talking about, Maze, when you say, when did he break his nose? We're hitting up Jeff Stotts and his incredible database and asking him, is there a fracture on the record? All that. You know what you're doing there? Now you're opening your third eye. Welcome to the Illuminati. But don't fucking come to me with Scott Foster got suspended and think about, I'm an Illuminati. No, you're not. You're not in the army. You're not part of this nation. If you fall for the easiest trick in the book, because say it with me one more time.
I want to believe.
Well, I want to believe that Yusuf Nurkic fractured his nose.
Isn't this just like a sleep apnea deviated septum procedure?
Pretty much.
Isn't that what this is?
So he took a shot to the nose, which was described as a laceration, but not a break, when he was on the Blazers in December 2017.
That is quite more than a few.
9 years. That's almost a decade.
Is this a Curb episode? I feel like it might be.
My third eye is watching.
It's not how the third eye works.
You know how the third eye works, huh?
I've studied it for many years.
That's so.
He took a lot of blows to the face, a lot of contact to the face. I found a picture of him with a Band-Aid on his nose, but it was never reported that he fractured his nose. And even if he did, and it wasn't reported in 2017 or 2018, we're waiting till now, February 2026, to fix this?
Got to the bottom of it.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. It's higher altitude in Utah, so he needs more oxygen.
Yep.
And if you have sleep issues, breathing issues, then that can really impact you and exacerbate at the high altitude, Maze. It's pretty clear.
Portland and Phoenix, we don't have those problems.
20 years ago, Rip Hamilton broke his nose twice in a season, put on a mask, and fucking played the rest of the year.
And never took it off. Yeah.
We haven't improved mask technology.
But hold on, Maze. You know what Detroit is? Not in high elevation.
Right.
Now, if Nurk went back to Denver, probably would have to go back and get that procedure done.
Right.
So when he had all those triple doubles this year, was his nose bothering him then at the high elevation?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he could have had a quadruple double if he didn't have.
Yeah, exactly. People always look at it the wrong way. Thank you, Tom. Wait, people always say, oh, wait, what happened? I thought your nose, it is bothering me. Guess what? I was supposed to even better. Even better. But damn nose.
November 13th, Maze, 10 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 steals. Think about it. If he was breathing correctly, 5 steals could easily double into a quadruple double. It's pretty clear that Yusuf Nurkic would be the greatest player of all time if he just got this procedure done. So there you go.
You know what's funny is he's had 9 games where he had 7 or more assists, regardless of how many rebounds, although he had double-digit rebounds in almost all of those games. And all of them except one have been at home. He's dropping dimes and rebounding.
Not working our theory here.
Yeah.
It's not working our theory that he's better at home at altitude. Okay, but the Carlisle thing. All right, so Nurk gets the procedure done. The NBA's already fined them $500,000 for resting Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. in fourth quarters and having conduct detrimental to the league. Rick Carlisle, who used to be the longtime coaches union head, came out with that fiery comment saying that the NBA's injury police, as I've called them, the injury police, didn't even ask anything. And I like that Carlisle called him the kid. He didn't bother talking to the kid.
Everyone's a kid to Carlisle.
I always wondered, how thorough are those injury investigations where the NBA is investigating whether the player could have played according to the player participation policy? I feel like Carlisle isn't out here lying in this bite here, but if you are going to investigate whether Nesmith was correctly sidelined, probably you would want to talk to the team doctors and Nesmith in that investigation.
I'll be honest with you, Tom. I've always wondered about this policy. I guess they could look at the imaging and compare against the database of similar injuries, but without a doctor actually diagnosing the person and saying, all right, think about all the times that you have a doctor on, even a guy like Dr. Sitter or Jeff Stotts is an incredible trainer. When we ask them specifics like that, they always say the first thing is, without reviewing it, without being hands-on, it's hard for me to say.
Well,
but the league has a team of people who can do this.
Not Dr. Nick from The Simpsons or Dr. Spachemin. Those guys.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Nick.
They can analyze it from afar. They don't need a hands-on exam.
I didn't know that Tom had a limited fake.
He nailed it.
Dr. Nick.
Hi. I'm Dr. Nick.
The knee bone's connected to the something. The something's connected to the red thing. The red thing's connected to my wristwatch. Uh-oh.
When I look at this situation, though, I kind of feel like Adam Silver just had the press conference at LA talking about, hey, this aspiration investigation, look, we've got our best people on this. I have no comment. The day-to-day, I don't know. I'll let the lawyers figure this out. We have due diligence in the league, due process. We don't want to rush things or fast track this. Could take over a year. This situation where they're fining a team $100,000, it's now, hey, if we want to fine you, we're going to fine you. And we're not going to do this sort of due diligence. Again, this is all coming from Rick Carlisle. And I'd imagine it's less about Nesmith and more about Pascal Siakam, a guy who played every game this year. I just find the whole thing so hard to litigate. The injury, player participation policy, the tanking. The Jazz weren't even the first people to do this, rest their stars in the fourth quarter this year. But they're going to get fined $500K and $100K.
Lauri Markkanen, watch your fucking back.
Because he's the next one.
He's next.
To have some sort of crazy surgery.
You ever stub your toe in middle school or anything, Lauri?
Well, he's been out for, I think, 15 games this year with an illness.
No.
The nastiest flu you've ever seen.
Well, it's going around, I heard. Around and around and around.
You ordered a pizza in Salt Lake City?
Hey, don't.
The big finisher can actually finish games, you know, because he's Finnish. He's from Finland.
This segment is finished.
My assignment: uncover why the association inspires more conspiracy theories in volume and salience than any other U.S. sport.
You've heard of the Illuminati.
The truth is out there, but so are lies.
Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
The NBA has always been controlled by about 8 people.
Denial is the most predictable of all human responses.
If you're only using 10% of your brain, you don't even know that you're using 10% of your brain.
The NBA Illuminati.
If coincidences are just coincidences, why do they feel so contrived?
The Illuminati.
But you start to follow the money, and you don't know where the f*** it's going to take you.
It is unspoken. They have influence among other players.
The NBA Illuminati.
I don't have time for your convenient ignorance.
Maybe I'm a conspiracist now as well.
That's all it took. Oh, we got books, we got schools. You saw a video on YouTube.
My eyes, sir. I've never used them before.
We are the basketball Illuminati.
This is Basketball Illuminati. I am Tom Haberstroh, and as always, I am joined by the 5-star Illumin Army generals, Amin Elhassan and producer Anthony Mays.
What's up, Illumination? Thank you for keeping your third eye open. As always, you can support us at patreon.com/countthedings. That'll get you ad-free episodes and help us continue to produce the show. Also, check out our YouTube page at Basketball Illuminati. You can watch our Truth Teller interviews and Do You Believe episodes there. Please subscribe and continue to show your support. Thank you.
We've got Jared Weiss from The Athletic joining us, the Spurs reporter, NBA reporter, truth teller extraordinaire, going to join us to talk about Wemby, Joe Mazzulla, and if it's actually a Jared Weiss Bowl, if it's Celtics and Spurs in the NBA Finals. We'll talk to Jared in a little bit, but first.
Listening to The Agenda with Amin Elhassan and Tom Haberstroh.
Amin, I feel like you were the first person to point this out on the 65-game rule. It is useless. It's never come up. Why do we have it? And we might be approaching the first 65-game rule MVP. And what I mean by that is Jokic has only one game left that he can miss before he's eliminated, disqualified from the MVP ranks.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who, yes, he's got a bunch of games that he can miss.
He's got 6 left.
Victor Wembanyama, 4 left. Luka Doncic, 5 left. And it's not a lock that any of those guys make this, especially Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with the abdominal strain. He was out for the All-Star break, and then they said he's going to be reevaluated for another week. And I did this story for TomTheFinder.com about how Cade Cunningham, I feel like, is an underrated MVP candidate by virtue of playing a lot more games than those other candidates. And man, people were fired up about this because they thought I was minimizing Cade Cunningham's candidacy.
Yeah.
And I was just saying this 65-game rule could rear its ugly head here down the stretch of the season. And I don't think people quite realize how nasty the MVP conversation will be if Jokic plays 64 games, but Cade Cunningham and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander play 65. Those two guys are eligible, but Jokic is not, even if Jokic has been the better player this year. I mean, you're sitting here being like, I saw this coming a mile away. This is so dumb.
Look, man, life as a precog in Steven Spielberg's Minority Report is not fun. You're haunted by visions of the future. How can you ever really be present? But that's my life because I saw all of this coming. It was a dumb solution. First of all, the voters, by and large, have almost always taken into account games played. You never needed a rule for them to know when a guy's missed too much time. The egregious examples of any award with not a whole lot of games played is like Patrick Ewing winning Rookie of the Year, Bill Walton winning MVP. Those were guys that missed extensive time. I mean, like 20-plus games. So we didn't need this rule. Number 2, the rule was installed to deter load management. Load management is a team initiative. It's not a player-driven initiative. So the cause of why we're having it is dumb. Having it is dumb. And the consequences are dumb because as we saw with Tyrese Halliburton a couple of years ago, we might see it again this year where guys should not be playing. The 65-game rule does not compel healthy players to play. It compels unhealthy players to risk further injury in order to stay eligible. It's a dumb rule. Now, if Jokic were to miss 10 more games, I don't give a shit how good he would play. No one would vote for him for MVP, or not too many people would vote for him MVP first ballot. And you don't get that scarlet letter on a Cade Cunningham of winning by quote-unquote default. Here's how I know. Years ago, before he'd won any MVPs, Nikola Jokic won an MVP in a season where every other major MVP candidate had missed significant time due to injury while he didn't. He had a great year, but he was not head and shoulders above everyone else, and the deciding factor ultimately was these guys missed time and he didn't. The system took care of itself. They didn't need a rule to tell them to do that. They did it on its own, and as a result, no one ever delegitimizes that MVP, even though I would argue it was by default because other guys got hurt. In this case, instead of letting nature take its course, we are artificially going to crown Cade Cunningham, even though he probably didn't need the artificial crown. probably was going to get it anyway. All we're doing is compelling injured players to play while hurt.
I think the NBA has an image problem that the star players don't want to play, that they're taking games off to rest, right?
Whose fault is that?
And I was going to say, Amin, this rule only makes that worse because now we're talking about how many games they're all missing instead of saying, wow, they really care now. They're playing 80 games now. The idea was, oh, if we implement this rule, they'll be playing 75, 80 games. We're now seeing that it's going to come down to games missed math in the headlines. Before it was already taken into account. Now it's going to be codified. Now it's going to be official that we're going to be counting how many games they miss and having that as part of the biggest conversations. Hey, who do you think is MVP? Oh, I think so-and-so has been the better player, better team, coming up in clutch moments. But because he's going to be disqualified from the rule, I'm not going to... Jokic, I don't know if he's going to qualify. If he misses 2 games, he's done. Victor Wembanyama misses 5 games. Done. Luka Doncic misses 6 games. Finito.
Tom, let me take it a step further. We're focused on MVP, and that's cool. It's a prestigious award. What about the All-NBA teams?
I can't wait for this.
Cade Cunningham wins MVP, and some people are going to argue, well, that's because he was going to win MVP anyway, but now he's got this asterisk on it. But that's fine. We all know Cade Cunningham's MVP worthy. What about the guys who are going to make All-NBA, and they're like, are you an All-NBA player?
DeMar DeRozan is going to win All-NBA.
Are you?
Here's my favorite part about this. First team last year, Giannis, not going to make it.
Done.
Tatum, not going to make it.
Done.
Shea and Jokic in danger
of not making it.
Mm-hmm.
Donovan Mitchell still hanging in there.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Donovan Mitchell's going to make it, yeah.
So we're going to slide those 4 out of the first team.
All right. What's next?
But really the important part is the third team.
Right.
Because who makes the third team can affect your contract. If you're on a rookie scale deal and you're extension eligible, you can only get 25% of the cap. But if you get All NBA, you qualify for up to 30% as part of the Derrick Rose rule and what's referred to as an escalator.
Yes.
Last season, it was Cade Cunningham and Evan Mobley. Cade was 3rd team All-NBA. Evan Mobley was 2nd team All-NBA and Defensive Player of the Year. Trae Young, for example, this happened in the past before we had the 65-game rule, got a 3rd team All-NBA, got a bigger extension. So, we're going to have a brand new 1st team All-NBA this year, basically all new guys. And then also the 3rd team is going to be a team cash grab.
So here are some guys that missed out last season on All-NBA. These are on the outside looking in. Alper Sengun, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ivica Zubac, Darius Garland, Sabonis, Pascal Siakam, Bam Adebayo, Trae Young, Devin Booker. That's in order, the guys outside looking in. The closest was Sengun. He had 58 points versus James Harden, 68 points. But again, as May said, when you carve out the top end and everyone takes a step up, it doesn't matter if you're a couple points off.
A great one would be Jalen Duren.
Sure.
If Jalen Duren makes the 3rd team All-NBA, he would become eligible for the 30% max going into restricted free agency next summer.
Pistons are like, God, please don't.
So look at this. 2nd team, LeBron James out. Steph Curry, he's going to be out. Evan Mobley on the cusp, if I'm not mistaken. Jalen Brunson is fine. And then the 3rd team, Cade's fine. Towns is fine. Halliburton is out. Jalen Williams is out. And Harden, I'm just going to say in. You're talking about 8 to 10 spots.
Yes.
Up for grabs. If I go 10 spots down, last season, 9th was Devin Booker last year. 8th was Trae Young. We calling those guys All-NBA players? So this season, who are those guys? Who are those guys who are like, well, I played.
Danny Avdija was in that running, but now he's got his back issue. He's played 48 games, and he's got to play 17 more in order to be eligible.
Yep.
Listener, you've got places to be. Let's say your hair's thinning up top. You have time to go to Turkey and sit in a waiting room for some hair loss treatment? Of course not. Hims makes expert care accessible on your schedule. You feel like it's thinning out a little bit? You feel like it's thinned out way too much already? Well, Hims offers convenient access to a range of prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that work, including chews, oral medications, serums, and sprays. Doctor-trusted ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil can stop further hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. That's so quick. There's probably some hidden fees. Nope, no hidden fees, no surprise costs, just real personalized care on your schedule. Think of Hims as your digital front door that gets you back to your old self with simple 100% online access to trusted treatments for real health concerns all in one place. For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/basketball. That's hims.com/basketball for your free online visit. hims.com/basketball. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride.
I wanted to look this up. I mean, which guy in the last 40 years played the fewest number of games and made All-NBA?
40 years? Last 40 years.
Yeah, in a non-shortened season. Since 1995.
That's 30 years.
This player played 44 games in an 82-game season and won.
Brandon Roy?
No.
Kevin Love?
No.
44 games.
1998.
98. Okay, that narrows it down. All right. 97, 98. Not Sean Kemp. Scottie Pippen?
Scottie Pippen.
Wow.
Played 44 games and won All-NBA.
Ask me how I know.
How do you know, Amin?
Because 1997-98 was prime time Amin Elhassan, super Knick fan, who was on to this conspiracy that we're just going to keep giving these guys all NBA and all defensive team nods, even though they weren't actually that fucking good. They were good once upon a time. Karl Malone being on the all defensive team as many years as he was bullshit. Bullshit. I was like, you're going to tell me that Karl Malone's better defensively than Anthony Mason? In what world?
Look at those blocks and steals on the road versus home. You know what I'm saying?
Is that the beginning of Amin's third eye opening? Seeing the light for the first time?
Yes and no. Yes, but also no, because I know in that moment in my life, much like I said in the cold open,
I want to believe.
I want to believe the reason why the Knicks couldn't get over the hump because it was a vast conspiracy to keep us down. They just want to keep up their show ponies of Karl Malone and Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan and da. So while I would love to say my third eye was open, really, it was just, I want to believe.
What about 2007? Guy played 48 games.
Was All-NBA?
All-NBA, 48 games in 2007.
Okay, so it ain't none of my guys because my guys played. Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire, all NBA players, they played.
Yeah.
Dwayne Wade?
No. One thing to remember is that it's positionless now.
Oh, so it's going to be a center. 2007 center.
Mehmet Okur. No.
No, that's a great pull, though. Such a good pull.
It would be someone who was good enough that, man, even though you only played 44 games, you're still going to nod you in.
He actually made second team.
Yao.
Yeah.
Oh,
See?
yeah.
I know how to play this fucking game, man. This is a good game for me.
Second team All-NBA, played 48 games of an 82-game season. So if you're going to argue that the 65-game rule should exist, I think you have a better case for All-NBA. But then again, there's 15 players versus MVPs.
But how many instances of that did you find? All superlative, less than 65 or 60 games or whatever you want to use your cutoff. You just gave us two egregious examples of people in the 40s. So almost half a season. I'll tell you what was way more offensive to me was Bobby Jackson winning Sixth Man of the Year in a year he started like 26 games. That's too many started games. You can't be Sixth Man of the Year at that point.
So you want to impose a limit to the number of games that you're able to start?
A percentage. I think that's fair for Sixth Man of the Year because it's such a specifically defined award.
Here's some for you.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the lockout shortened seasons and the COVID seasons. So some examples here. In 91, Hakeem had 56 games played, and he made All-NBA. In 95, Dennis Rodman made All-NBA by playing 49 games.
In San Antonio?
In San Antonio. He only started 26 games. So where's that on your bullshit meter, is that Rodman was All-NBA that year?
I see now why Bob Hill did not survive his job. They let him tank for Duncan, and then they cut his ass up out of there. Actually, no, he wouldn't tank. That's why they got his ass up out of there.
Shaq in 96, 54 games. Penny in 97 had 59 games. Shaq in 97 had 51 games. Shaq in 98 had 60 games. And then there's the Scottie Pippen in 98 as well.
So what do all those people have in common?
Fucking amazing.
Yeah. So it sounds like when a really, really, really good player misses a few extra games, they might have beat out a lesser player with more games.
Right. And this is the Steph Curry argument, is like Steph Curry this year is not going to be eligible for all NBA. Giannis, the same thing, but we can all agree that they would be deserving over, let's say, Julius Randle. Would you argue that Julius Randle has had a better year than Steph Curry or Giannis?
No.
And he's going to make all NBA this year.
But that's the crazy part, right? The idea is that they didn't play enough games, but clearly they played enough games for us to say, that motherfucker's still pretty good.
If we make a team of all of the all-NBA players that do not qualify for the 65-game rule, and they could easily take out the people who actually win first team All-NBA, it's probably time to fold up that rule.
This is how we fix the All-Star game. Forget the world versus USA.
Yeah.
Have the guys who are on the verge of not making All-NBA play against the guys who are going to make All-NBA. And you know what's on the line? All-NBA.
Oh, wow.
I like this. But will the injured guys show up? That's the problem.
That's the problem, yeah.
We got to get the injury police. I think teams would tank out of that. Hey, I want to play on the injured team because, look, it's Giannis. It's Wemby. It's Shea. It's Steph.
All the members of the Utah Jazz.
Nurk with his surgery.
Watch out, Lowry. Watch out, buddy. You know what? Speaking of All-NBA, Defensive Player of the Year also is going to be subject to the 65-game rule. Victor Wembanyama. We're going to have our Victor Wembanyama correspondent here, Jared Weiss, on the pod coming up right after this.
You all think I'm late. Well, I'm not late. And I'm going to stay right here and fight for this lost cause, even if this room gets filled with lies like these. And the Taylors and all their armies come marching into this place. Somebody will listen to me.
There's no better way to overpower a trickle of doubt than with a flood of naked truth.
But the complexity and the gray lie not in the truth, but what you do with the truth once you have it.
What is true and right is true and right for all.
You and I both know that that's just not the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
It's too messy. Keeps them up night.
I'm here because in the end, the truth is worth the risk.
Speak a little truth and people lose their minds.
I'm a grown man, you can tell me the truth.
Why is it people who want the truth never believe it when they hear it?
So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something really outrageous. I'm going to tell the truth.
Jared Weiss, you're joining the show again, truth teller extraordinaire. Welcome back to Basketball Illuminati. First things first, let's just get this out of the way, Jared. How tall is Wemby these days? What is the latest on Wemby's height? Have you... And he shaved his head since the last time we talked. So I feel like there's a new dimension that we're reaching here.
Well, it's funny. I talked to Taco Fall a few months ago, and he's like, there's only one way to solve this problem. We got to go forehead to forehead. We got to measure this out. And so I don't remember seeing them having a straight up measuring contest, but there were a few times where they passed each other kind of perfectly during the celebrity game. And
he did the jump ball.
He did the jump
Wemby,
ball.
the opening tip, and with Taco Fall was jumping tip, so it was like they were standing next to each other.
They looked pretty level. They looked pretty level. And like Taco's confirmed to me that he's, I think, 7'5" and 3/4 in socks. So depending on the thickness of the sock, like, yeah, we're looking at about 7'5.5", I would probably say, for Victor.
Okay, this is important. This is a huge development that we had Taco and Wemby in the same gym at the same room, right?
Yeah.
That was the tallest room I think any of us have been a part of, probably.
Oh, I don't know. I was there when Sean Bradley and Manute Bol faced off, and no, I wasn't.
I was gonna say, were you
it's
like two?
It's like very plausible. I feel like Amin has been there for every important NBA moment in my lifetime.
That's great. That's great. How was All-Star?
That was a disaster. It was LA All-Star. What did you expect? I mean, I had fun. I also was staying in Hollywood at my usual hotel, which was not a great decision for a contest being held in Inglewood. But I also was there for the entire week because I had the Lakers Spurs game early on. So I'm like, I'm not doing Inglewood for an entire week. I'm not staying by the airport for 7 days in a row. It's not happening for me. So I had a good time. The events were good. The thing is, All-Star doesn't quite have the same glitz and glamour around it that it used to have. Like there was the GQ party? Like, I don't think I heard anybody mention the GQ party once. When we were there in LA in, I think, 2017, I remember Adidas had this huge event where the headlining artists for it were Kanye, who was still not quite a public Nazi at that point, and Childish Gambino, who was at his peak as well. And like this time, like Rick Ross showed up at a few places, but like there weren't these like incredible, unforgettable concerts. The same
Nas
way.
at Kenny Smith's party, which I heard of but did not attend, which was at Jimmy Goldstein's house. That was like the ultimate Mad Libs of NBA like fandom, right? Like Kenny Smith's All-Star party, which took place at Jimmy Goldstein's house, had Nas perform. That seems to me was the peak like event of the weekend. Obviously, there's a thing where Michelle Obama was speaking at like the NBA Moms thing.
That was
like,
very cool.
There's a lot of there were a lot of like nice like of high end things, but in terms of like, oh man, where were you when this happened? A la Dave Chappelle at New Orleans All-Star Weekend doing thing at a plantation or whatever. Yeah, that not Kenny Smith's party, which typically Kenny Smith's party isn't the peak of All-Star programming.
But it is a good party, and shout out to Kenny.
It is
every
a good party.
time it's
It is
worth
a good
attending.
party. It's a good party, but like the idea of like the best party was Kenny's party. That typically hasn't happened, but it happened for sure this year.
I'm sure all of our listeners are like, so relatable. This is why I turned into the Illuminati.
Well, this is actually leads me to the thing that you wrote about the attendance at Saturday that you wrote for The Athletic. Can you let the listeners know about what you wrote about? Because I feel like that is kind of what we're talking about here, is being relatable and having fans brought into the tent. And it seemed like there were not that many people there at the game.
Yeah, no, the 3-point contest was emptier than a Washington Wizards game. Like it was insane. And if you ever been to a Wizards game on like a Sunday afternoon, that is one of the quietest buildings in America. And somehow there were like negative people in the stands for the 3-point contest. And by the time the dunk contest rolled around, it was better, maybe like half full or something like that. And the All-Star game I thought went well. Like for a non-full crowd, I thought the crowd was pretty engaged. Obviously the game came through until the very end. But there was this combination of, it was at 2 p.m. local time on the south side of Los Angeles, where most people are staying up on the north side. Most people that can afford to go to these things are not down in the Inglewood area. And then the affordability part. Like I remember talking to somebody outside of the All-Star game. He asked me, do you have tickets? And I was like, nope, no tickets. I was like, wait a second. I should ask this guy, how much are you trying to buy tickets for? And he was like, I'll pay $400 or $500 for a ticket. And I was like, what the hell? $400 or $500 to go to the game that everyone's complaining is like the biggest waste of time. And he was like, yeah, I want to see the best players play. But he couldn't even find anything under $900 when I ran into him. And I hope he found something at some point. But like the tickets were just unbelievably expensive. And it's between just like, we're seeing any major event these days in any arena or stadium. It's just, who can afford it? Like, I'll have friends tell me they spent $500 to go to the Fred Again show. I'm like, I love Fred Again, but I'm not spending $500 to go to a single show. It's insane.
I will look. There's a bigger conversation to be had about the overall accessibility of a sport, and even if you can charge. So we saw this. The Lakers are upping their season ticket prices by like 14%, something like a big number, right? And I said, part of that is new ownership. Part of that is your team's doing better. You have a young, bankable star. So you have the leverage to do this. But just because you can doesn't mean you should, because there's a bigger conversation to be had. But I want to put that aside for a second. Because for as long as I've remembered, All-Star Weekend was never an accessible event. It's like the Super Bowl.
Yes.
You don't go to the Super Bowl as a regular person. Right? These are events that like go for ridiculous amounts of money because the only people who go are either A, rich people, or B, some sort of corporate entity that has now like through its own distribution means, whether it's like, oh, I gave it to my managers that had the best numbers this weekend, or hey, this guy's entertaining clients, or hey, it's our VP or whatever, or hey, we are sponsors, so we get a bunch of tickets and stuff. That's what All-Star Weekend has always been like. That's why crowds at All-Star Weekend are always typically not the most refined, and crazy passionate people. That's what made this one different, was that they still kept the wall. And the wall was still energetic and loud. And try as they might, including, Jared, I'm sure you saw this. We didn't talk about this anywhere. They tried to do the wave, and nobody. I'm talking about in the arena, come on, guys, let's do the wave. And then the wall would do the wave, and then it would stop. But they'd still look and wait for it to cross all the way around the bowl of people who aren't participating till it comes back to the wall. The wall,
they still timed it.
They tried it 3 or 4 times. And me and Zach are dying laughing because nobody even felt guilt. It's all right, fine, I'll just raise my hand at least. Nope. And that's the kind of crowd you get in an All-Star game. That's normal. So when people start talking about, I saw a lot of also it wasn't accessible, financially. I'm it's never been that.
There have been games I've been to in the past where the arena was relatively full and there was a good mix of, I guess, VIPs and authentic fans. But when I went during the dunk contest and I sat down at the second row because it was completely empty, basically, and I was like, I'm taking photos. I'm going to go sit here. Nobody cares. And everyone surrounding me was some sort of VIP or corporate sponsor. There was one dad with his son who were legit excited, and when a t-shirt got thrown their way. Yeah, exactly.
The Andersons got tickets to the game? How'd they get tickets?
They used, I can't even remember what that website was, NBATicketExperience.com.
Yeah,
NBA. Yeah. So, the Andersons were excited, but I remember seeing one of these, I forget, it was clearly some former player and family or whatever it was. They caught one of those t-shirts from one of the fans, and they didn't know what to do with it because they're we don't want this. And there was nobody for them to give it to. There was no one around them being oh my God, I want this. Please toss this to me. So that's how devoid the stands were of authentic fans. So there were fans outside that were trying to get in. They just couldn't get in. So there's definitely a way to bridge this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when we see Mark Cuban out here on ChatGPT explaining why we need to embrace tanking, because it's really not really about winning, it's about family experiences and going to games, and he's worried about the accessibility of this stuff. It's like Amin said, it's a larger conversation, but I think part of the reason why these things don't feel big is because back in the day, there was an inaccessibility to the stars, but now there is social media and an accessibility to the stars that I feel like fans, the idea of these guys playing together, and for the only time we get to see them together, I feel like we've lost the magic of that because of social media or just the turnover in the league and how often they play together, that there's just isn't that novelty anymore, and it's kind of worn off. But that's neither here nor there. I want to talk Wemby because you are our Wemby correspondent here, and I want to figure out, Did he just aside from the All-Star, he didn't win the All-Star quote unquote game. Team World did not. This is as close he's been to the top of the league, right? This is the way he's ascending right now. A 9-game win streak for the Spurs. The win against the Detroit Pistons where he's blocking everything in sight. And Cade Cunningham was in Area 51 and trapped. Unlike I've seen Cade Cunningham struggle. This seemed like a big statement from the Spurs, and especially I think the Victor Wembanyama MVP case, it's actually on its way up now, the SGA sideline.
There is this cognitive dissonance that I've been trying to wrestle with the entire time with this team, which is that they have done everything to be really championship favorites. He's done everything, or his team has, to say he should be the MVP. And then you watch him play, you watch Castle play, and you're these guys are still so raw. There are still so many mistakes being made here, and yet their tenacity and their talent level is just so through the roof that they're winning anyway. And so I wrote the story on The Athletic after that game about how can we not consider them the title favorites when you look at the fact that all the other title favorites, they have beaten all of them. They're 8-1 against the top 3 seeds in the rest of the league. They are dominating the most important teams. And now that they're healthy, they're playing consistently again. And Wemby He finally looks like Wemby. He looks like the idealized version that we saw entering the season, where he's playing downhill, he's shooting threes, he's not getting turned around defensively nearly as much, and he's just kind of living at the paint now, and he's stopping. He probably had somewhere between 15 to 20 stops in that game, including all the shots that were missed, all the shots that just didn't even happen because he was right there. I think I counted somewhere around 20 times, which is just an insane number, right? So he's making this aggregate impact that feels like it's an MVP level, but then he's not putting up the stats that guys like Jokic and Shea and even Cade and Kawhi and Jaylen Brown are. So I don't know how to measure it, but we can't deny what we're seeing. You watch the game and you're just he's completely dominating the game on both ends.
Yeah, he in this streak, I think he's on court offensive rating. The Spurs are 126 when he's on the floor offensive rating, and defensive rating is at 101. So plus 25 every 100 possessions. It's just not even close. It's
That's good,
nuts.
Right?
That's pretty good. And then when he's on the bench, it's basically an even game. It's even. So a swing of 24 points every 100 possessions when Wemby's on the floor. And again, he's not putting up huge numbers, but the gravity that he has on both ends of the floor, you have to have two guys kind of paying attention to him at all times. And one of the plays where he blocked Cade at the rim. Do we have a name for this move that he does where he bends over and crouches?
I call it the peekaboo because he's straight up hid behind another player, which is crazy for a guy that's 7.5 feet. He ducked down to hide behind someone. And I remember when he blocked the shot, I was like, wait, where did he come from? I saw him, then you don't see him, and then boom, he's on top of the rim. It's insane. And that one was crazy. I thought the most amazing one was he had a very Bill Russell-like play where he went to spike a ball out of the air. There was one of those floaters that Cade threw up, and he was going towards the sideline, and it looked like he was going to spike it out of bounds, but right as he's going to hit the ball, he turns his wrist to then hit it sideways off the backboard and then catch it off the backboard to complete the turnover. And just how often do you see guys change their block direction in midair like that? That's not really a thing you see, but the wherewithal to do that, he's starting to kind of have that old Bill Russell adage of block the ball in bounds, turn it into a turnover. He's starting to think that way, and it's making him a much more effective possession ender.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Is Mitch Johnson the coach of the year?
It's kind of the same thing we were talking about before, where there's just such a crowd. It's you have him, you have Mazzulla, which what Mazzulla's done in Boston this year has been incredible. They got rid of half the rotation and they're playing better. Obviously JB Bickerstaff, they had the best record in the league entering this game, and what he's done over the last years has been amazing. But then you have Jordan Ott, who has taken a team of Booker and basically role players, and they're a playoff team. So right now, I don't know. There's no correct answer to that question at this point. We got to see what happens these last 20 games.
I've been thinking about Mitch a lot because I think the conventional wisdom of well, yeah, of course they've got a great record. Wemby's amazing. But then you factor how many games he's missed, and he's missed quite a few games, and they played better percentage-wise.
10-4 without Wemby.
Than they did with him. It's like at some point we have to accept that while Victor Wembanyama is amazing and obviously impactful to winning, it's they're good even when Victor Wembanyama is not out there. And I think Mitch Johnson deserves a lot of credit for that in a way that I don't know. JB hasn't had to show that much because Cade's been pretty healthy.
Cade, they are 5-1 without Cade. I just did all this research, so it is. Yeah, okay. It is wild. But to your point, I think what Jared was getting at is true. Is the Spurs right now are a 59 win pace, 59 wins. Before the season, the over under was at 44.5.
Yeah.
it's almost like we've rationalized, like, oh, everyone expected this because Wemby's that good.
Yeah,
but we
absolutely
know
not.
they were projected to be 8th in the Western Conference, barely make the playoffs, and now they're basically a 60-win team. And without Wemby, as you pointed out, I mean, they're really good. In fact, like a better win percentage without Wemby, or slightly better. So the Mitch Johnson case is pretty much unimpeachable when you consider that. On the other side, JB Bickerstaff, if you want to argue that the Detroit Pistons winning the East and running away with it with the best record, great. But the gap of overachieving is essentially the same. The Pistons were projected to be a 46.5 win team in the East, and now they're projected to be a 61 win team. Basically 15 games above what they were expected, the same as the Spurs. And Joe Mazzulla, if we want to do that, the Spurs have a larger gap between expected and actual than the Boston Celtics, even with Jason Tatum out. So I feel like Mitch is benefiting from the Wemby ascent, but like we're talking about, he's got every box checked in that case.
And he's got Jared Weiss covering him, and Joe Mazzulla doesn't have that anymore.
That's maybe that's the case for Joe, that he somehow is carrying on and getting better without me there.
He's overcoming the lack of your coverage.
Or maybe I'm just the worst reporter of the league. Who knows?
You're moving to Sacramento. You've been hired by the Sacramento beat, and now you're going to Sacramento to...
Don't put that evil on him, Ricky Bobby.
As long as they give me the beam for my house. But to Mitch's credit, we don't even have to look at the odds or any of that kind of stuff. We pulled these players during training camp. We asked all the players, what's your goal? And they were all like, we want to make the playoffs this year. Wemby was the one that made news when he said, we're going to be the 6th seed. That's what we're aiming for. And that was him taking a stand. Now it's like they're closing in on the best record in the NBA. They are so far beyond what their stated goal was at the beginning of the season. And they just had a conversation after the All-Star break where they were like, we need to look at this as a championship run, not just a step forward. So they're just starting to really process the fact that they are really at the front of the front. I would just say for the Coach of the Year thing, you just have to look at the fact that Mazzulla lost like his rotation and has replaced his rotation with like rookies, and he keeps tinkering and tooling with it and then continue to win. And since like December, they've been like top 2 or 3 in net rating and record in the league. So just the fact that the Celtics basically took a step back talent-wise this year, like a pretty substantial one, even if it is proving to be the right move, the fact that they're still performing at this level, I think you probably have to give it to him, just because the Spurs and the Pistons were both clearly taking a step forward with what they were doing. So if you're looking at the top of the standings guys, I just think Mazzulla had the most momentum going against him coming into the season, and he's done the most against that grain.
Wow. I think we all know, if we want to go straight Illuminati on this, I think Mitch Johnson doesn't want to win Coach of the Year, right?
He'll be fired in 2 years.
Oh, this is Alvin Gentry used to say this, like, Coach of the Year is the kiss of death. Yeah. And this was even before Dwayne Casey and George Karl and all those guys. I'm talking about like in the mid-2000s, Alvin Gentry's like, keep Coach of the Year far away from me because that thing is tainted. That's like, it's the kiss of death.
Yeah, I could see a scenario where Mitch and Joe are just like tanking the last few games of the season, just win Coach of the Year. We got 2023 was Mike Brown in Sacramento, gone. Monty Williams in Phoenix, gone. Tom Thibodeau with the Knicks, gone. Nick Nurse with Toronto after winning the title, gone. Mike Budenholzer, gone. So it's gone Dwayne twice. Casey.
Mike Budenholzer gone twice, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. The last two so far, Daignault and Kenny Atkinson, so far so good.
Kenny, and we heard Kenny whispers earlier this season.
Yeah.
When they weren't doing so well. So I mean, like, look, man, who's the longest tenured Coach of the Year right now active in the NBA?
I mean, it's Spo.
It's Kerr, right? Isn't it Kerr? Did Spo ever win Coach of the Year? I don't think he has.
Kerr. I mean, Coach of the Year, you're saying? Okay. Yeah. It's got to be Curry. He won it in 2016,
and his days might be numbered.
No, and by the way, you know what they said in 2016? Well, technically, Luke Walton deserves that Coach of the Year because he coached us. And what happened to Luke Walton?
Sacramento
out twice. Lakers. He also got ousted twice.
And what's worse, being the coach of the Kings or not having a job at all?
Being the coach of the Kings, you have to work
for sure. He's got a good job. He's on the Detroit staff, I think.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Well, then JB better not win it because Luke might be out of a job very soon thereafter.
So you're projecting now, Jared, that we're going to have the Jared Weiss Bowl is Celtics Spurs in the finals. Where are you at with this? Are you rooting for that?
Sure. I don't have to stay in a hotel. That makes life pretty easy. But I would say it seems obvious that Tatum's coming back. The amount of fanfare, just the amount of like documentaries they're putting out around him, the amount of advertising. I just saw an Amica car insurance commercial all about his comeback the other day. Like, if he doesn't come back, it's going to be bullshit. Like, he has to come back at this point. It would be so ridiculous. Like, Amica's stock should plummet if he doesn't come back. So, like, he's coming back, right? Like, there's just no way he's
Hold on here. Wasn't there Chris Haynes' report that he's not coming back or that we should put everything on hold? But if he's taped all these commercials, then they would have happened. I think it's Big Pharma that is making him come out here. Like,
you can't sell stuff without being on the court? Like, that seems fine.
But what Jared is saying is that it's like a comeback story, you know?
They're like literally making commercials and documentaries about how he's making this comeback. To roll all that out and for him not to be coming back would just, I think, make him look bad. And so I don't think he would be doing that if he didn't intend to be coming back. And we're just seeing the way the Celtics are playing coy, the way he is like, I'm sure you guys saw Joe Mazzulla got asked by Bobby Manning the other day, the Boston reporter, like, did Jason participate in practice? And Joe just literally stared at him and then looked away and then just like shut down. And pretty good sign that JT is probably participating with the team and is on his way back. So I would imagine the Celtics have him back. And I think Tatum is going to fit in fine. He's just not, he has never struck me as the kind of person that's going to want to throw a wrench in the system to make himself feel satisfied. He's going to take the shots that are his shots, but he will fit in, and he's a well-rounded enough player that you can stick him at the 4 and he'll do the job of a 4 and bring to the table what he has. So if that's what's happening, I just don't see how the Celtics don't make the leap to being the best team in the East. And then in the West, the Spurs have done pretty much everything at this point to make themselves consider the favorites, but obviously the Thunder and the Nuggets are great. So I'd probably give the Spurs the edge at this point, but what's good about this playoffs is we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. There's just no team that you feel comfortable picking at this point.
Jared, do you have any Joe Mazzulla stories that you want to share with the Illumination? Just weird. He's just an interesting cat at press conferences, but I feel like you being around him, you probably have seen some wild stuff.
I mean, what can I say out there? This one was funny. It happened in front of everybody. I went there earlier this year to do a quick Luke Cornett piece. And I asked him just during a press conference, just like, what has Luke meant to you guys and all that? He gave me like the worst answer he possibly could. So I laughed it off. And after it was over, he came up to me and he's like, what do you want to put in the fucking Hall of Fame? And it was great. And it was like Joe loves Luke, Luke loves Joe. And it's just that Joe loves putting on that maniacal competitor act. And he's able to carry the bit through in a way that just is unbelievable. And the thing with Joe is that he's a wonderful person, like one of my favorite people to talk to. And the act that he puts up on the podium, it's an act that he does a lot as part of his day-to-day craziness, but he is doing it as a bit up there. He's a much more kind, approachable, welcoming person. Like when I told him that I was leaving for San Antonio, he was incredibly happy and supportive for me, or mostly just glad that I was gone. But like he genuinely cares, and he shows that. And so all of the shtick that he did like this year with the media game and all that stuff, like that's authentic. Like people look at him and they get mad at him and they're thinking like, this guy's such an asshole because he's being so sarcastic. He's not being sarcastic. Like he actually means that stuff. And I almost feel bad for him sometimes because he is a very benevolent person, and people look at his outward and kind of like absurd commitment to being benevolent as an act of sarcasm because we're just so cynical these days. And he genuinely is, I think, trying to change that.
All right, rank these 3, and I know there's more, but rank these 3 Joe Mazzulla quotes in order of your favorite. The one where he's talking about the wolf as a security system. The one where he's talking about escape rooms like SEAL Team 6 situations, or when they asked him if he was excited about the royal family and he said, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
I mean, that last one was my least favorite just because he just like, he screwed the joke up so bad. It was so awkward. So that was just like, it was horrible delivery. And that was, I think, pretty early in his tenure. His delivery wasn't that good yet. I mean, his whole escape room thing I thought was pretty great. He loves torture. He's a real masochist. And the way that he's just like forced everybody on his team to become masochists has just been hilarious because it just gets very differing results. And they all like kind of like it, but they all kind of are like mortified of Joe's psychoticness. I mean, for me, my favorite moment probably was when he went to contest a Royce O'Neal shot. And after there was a timeout, like he literally ran on the court and contested a shot. Like the league like almost had to suspend him. They were like, "You are not doing this shit." But he was like, "Yeah, no shots."
But he hooped.
No one's getting shots up.
Like at least he hooped, right? Like I think people forget that he was pretty good at not. Well, I mean,
here's a good story. Story. So, Christmas Day, I want to say 23 or something like that. I thought it was a 3 p.m. game, but it was actually a 5 p.m. game. So I got to the arena at like 1 o'clock. So I was way, way too early. And I come to find all the coaches are playing pickup on the garden floor before way before anyone else has gotten there. So I'm like, I'm gonna sit here and watch. This could be the most competitive basketball I see today. And Joe is like Marcus Smart with a sledgehammer, basically. Like that was how he was playing. And he was one of the shortest guys out there, and he was dominating people defensively. Like he was a monster. And at what point, one of the guys on the team is like getting pissed off. He's coaches. He's like, because Joe's just hacking the crap out of him. And he starts like kind of storming off the court. And Joe is just screaming at him the entire way off the floor. And it was amazing seeing like the level of shit talking that Joe goes to when he's playing is just so much more intense than anybody could have expected. And that game, like he just completely blew the game up. And then the guy walked off and he was like, all right, check fucking ball. Let's go. And he was just like hounding people, like shoving people, just like playing like pretty much like the dirtiest basketball you could possibly play without like actually hurting somebody. And that was just how we got warmed up for games.
Sounds like Dan Marley. Dan Marley's a hack. God damn. And he kick. Whenever he shoots, he kicks his foot out. That's how he creates space. It just kicks you. So my shins would just have these lumps. So instead of wearing shin guards.
Wear shin guards?
So I wearing shin guards to play against them. And then everyone made fun of me because the shin guards were the team issue shin guards and they were bright orange. And I was like, look, I just used what the equipment manager got, man. I didn't choose this. I would have selected black.
Do NBA players wear shin guards during games? I've never heard this before.
Some guys do. It'll look like a compression sleeve, but there's a padding on the front. It's a shin guard because sometimes there are guys like Dan Marley who like to kick. They just kick you right in the shins, and that shit hurts. Nothing hurts like a shin kick, man. That's just terrible.
Yeah, some people go for a little poke in the stomach, but then that's what defenders do to shooters. But shooters gotta have some sort of counter.
Yeah, no, for Dan Marley, the poke in the stomach would not work. I shoved him. I would literally shove him. It wouldn't do anything. He just laugh every time. But snake bite, if you just touch his elbow, he would get so pissed. Hey, that's some bullshit. Blah, blah, blah. Like, because that actually does impact the shot. But more importantly, it is one of the more imperceptible fouls. Like, refs got to be staring at it. See, and obviously, if you're playing pickup and you see Dan Marley go up for a shot and miss it, and I wasn't mauling him, I was like, what are you talking about? So it's the perfect crime.
I'm trying to think right now to bring it back to Wemby for a sec. Has Wemby won a championship at any level?
Yeah, in France.
Yeah, with Nanterre in France, I think, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he's wired to want to win everything, but I didn't know if there was like an incredible story about him against all odds winning a championship.
I don't know if it's against all odds. I think they were actually pretty dominant when they won. It's funny because I thought you were going for. I wonder if he's got the Shaq thing. Because Shaq's thing, the Shaq joke that Shaq himself used to make was, "I've won at every level except high school and college," or like high school, college, and the pros, or something like that. It's like, or no, I've won at every level except college and the pros, because you only won in high school at that point. But yeah, no, look, the guy's. It's one of those things where it's like, It's funny. We talk about how hard winning is and how hard it is to win a championship, whatever. But then there are these players that come along and you're like, isn't it inevitable? Like, he's going to get one. It's just a matter of time. And for me, Victor Wembanyama feels like that, minus obviously injury. But given enough time, he's going to win one. We're not going to be able to stop him.
I mean, the big thing with Victor that he's been making very clear is he started to like really come out of his shell and start to take control of his public message and his reputation, is that he's first and foremost a competitor and he's a maniacal winner. And we saw that with the All-Star game. Like the thing I wrote about after the All-Star game was the moment that he really truly sold us on saving the All-Star game was when they lost that first game, and he was so unbelievably pissed. Like he was the most upset I've seen him after a loss the entire season, after losing the first part of the All-Star game, because he was mad that they made a stupid defensive rotation and left the shooter wide open. Like
say his name.
Name names.
Carl, was it Cat?
Cat.
Yeah.
Who else? Yeah. So that level of like, he talks about like, I hate losing. I never play to lose, all that kind of stuff. To see that it wasn't just like, I don't play to lose. It was like, I will not lose and I will be pissed if I lose in the game that everyone has treated like it's meaningless. It just shows how he's wired. Like, he doesn't know how to turn that thing off. And it's showing that he's getting better as the season's gone on and his minutes load is increasing, and he's able to exert himself throughout a game more effectively, because I think conditioning was an issue for him when he was dealing with, a little bit of injury over the course of the year. Like, his conditioning looks a lot better now, and it's allowing him to be physically impactful every single possession. And like, you're seeing that they get to the fourth quarter, it's a close game, and he just opens the door in the fourth. And he's learning how to pace himself for the fourth. Yeah,
I want to ask you about the minutes, because in the big chunk of the first half of the season before he got hurt, he was averaging 35 minutes a game. And then on Monday night was his first real like 36-minute play, like playoff minute type game. Are we going to see that down the stretch, you think? Is that him just getting back to 35 minutes a game? Or do you think that was just a big game that he wanted to go all out for?
Probably both. I mean, Johnson has shown that he's willing to like give Victor and some of these guys mid-30s minutes in these really important games. But looking at it, so ever since he came back in mid-December from his injury, he's only played over 30 minutes, I think 7 times now.
Right,
in like 20-ish games. So
he's fourth on the team in minutes. How weird is that? Like in terms of minutes per game.
Yeah. So I think that they are trying to ramp it up, because we see a lot of the top players usually in like March is when you see their minutes actually go up, because they are kind of like, they got a little bit of their rest and rehab during All-Star break. They got to like kind of like get some of those injuries healed up, and then they're kind of building up their stamina to withstand that level of load heading into the postseason, because you do need to play these guys heavy minutes at some point to prepare them for the postseason load. And I don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs. I assume he'll play around 36 a night, and maybe if they get to the conference finals, he'll play 38 to 40. But Cornet has been good enough this season that they haven't needed to overload Wemby's minutes. And we've actually seen here that even though they have Kelly Olynyk and Biz Biyombo, and they had Jeremy Sohan for a while as their backup fives behind Cornet, they would rather go with like Keldon Johnson or even Carter Bryant at the 5 and just play super small when their 2 centers are off the floor. So they seem pretty committed to keeping Wemby in his minutes range.
What was the story behind the Sohan waiver?
It was interesting. So they shopped him around. There's a bunch of teams that had some offers, but they didn't want to take money next year. They didn't want to lose any sort of draft comp. They wanted to have just at least like a net even add-on without taking anything on next year. They couldn't find the deal like that, and that worked. And so I was told from someone deeply involved in the matter after the deadline that the plan was he wasn't planning to ask out, and he was planning to stick around. And at some point over that next week, and I think probably the big one was they had a huge blowout and Sohan still didn't get in the game. And so I think Sohan at that point was like, all right, if I'm not even playing in the blowout, I'm not going to see the court ever. You got to let me go play somewhere. And it was fair. It wasn't fair for him to be, completely sidelined like that. Like, he's a good enough player that he should be getting minutes in the NBA, but Carter Bryant, their development plan for him has worked really well because he's actually playing pretty decently now as their like 9/10th man. He took Sohan out of the rotation. Cornette is their backup 5. That took Sohan out of the rotation. There just wasn't room for him to play with the Spurs. And so I think once there was that last game where he wasn't playing at all, he's like, all right, screw this. Like you guys got to let me go. And, it worked out for him. He ended up with the team that was trying to trade for him anyway.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a veteran leader on the team that is going to be able to, I guess Harrison Barnes would be that on the team, is just when things go sideways in the playoffs that he'll step up or be able to bring that leadership. But then I'm looking at the rest of the league and I'm like, I mean, we were having the same questions about the Thunder last year and they won the title, and you look around
but I think the difference is the Thunder had been to the playoffs before the season before. And if you go back far enough, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, their best player, had been to the playoffs both as a Clipper kind of on the bench and as a Thunder player kind of coming into his own. So it wasn't quite as uncharted territory as when I look at the Spurs roster up and down. It's like you got De'Aaron Fox been there once, Devin Vassell, has he ever been there? No. Castle, no. Wembenyama, no. Champagnie, no. Barnes, yes.
Keldon Johnson hasn't been there, and he's been there the longest out of all those guys.
Yeah.
He's been to
Cornette
Olympics,
and
right?
Barnes. Those are the two guys with championship experience there.
And neither of those guys are, I'm not even saying as far as like elite talents, just the type of player you put the ball in their hands. Like, it's not like, not a great example because he's 100 years old, but it's not like if Kyle Lowry was on the team. You'd be like, well, like even in a reduced role, he's a guy with the ball in his hands who can decision make and talk guys through stuff. Harrison Barnes at the end of the day is standing in the corner saying, all right, guys, don't panic. Wait, but just handle that part over there. And so that's the thing to me, San Antonio, they're going to out-talent whoever they play in the first round. But then you got to play Oklahoma City or Denver in that second round. And that's where I'm like, I don't know. I think that might be the end of the road.
Jared, how do you think their confidence against Oklahoma City in particular, is it palpable after going 4-1 in the regular season? Do they want that matchup? Is the ethical basketball series, is that something we can book for May and June, or what do you think there?
I mean, I'd be shocked if it doesn't happen. I mean, OKC just ever since Christmas Day when the Spurs went in there and they beat them pretty handily in Oklahoma, like OKC just hasn't been the same. And obviously right now they're playing without Shai, right? So I'm not going to read too much into it. And they're playing decently right now at least. But the Spurs had their number in that the Spurs guard play was really effective against them. And then Wemby has just taken Chet out of the game offensively every time they've played. Chet has just been pretty much useless. It's been weird because the only games I've been to in person to see Chet this year have been against Wemby. So I've been like, I don't get it. I thought Chet was an all-star and he's been terrible in those games. He's been good defensively at least. But I mean, Victor has just eliminated one of their top 3 players. And J-Dub has been okay in those games. So, with OKC, it's a matter of like, are they going to get healthy? Is J-Dub really going to hit a stride in time for the playoffs? And then that gives me optimism that they will be the same team. And then if that's the case, they're the best team in the league. But we haven't seen that happen yet. And they were good last game. And AJ Mitchell coming back, like that was really important for OKC. So at least OKC, the last taste in the mouth with that series is when they're fully healthy, they compete with the Spurs, and they're probably even better than the Spurs if they're like truly, truly at the top of their game. They're better than everybody if they're at the top of their game. But we just haven't seen that consistently since like the first month and a half of the season. While the Spurs, I mean, they had a dip in January, but they've had like 2 very big elite stretches so far this season. And if let's say their dip comes here in March, they're going to be back on the upswing when the playoffs are starting. And really it's just been, they are healthy and they're looking great because they're healthy. So there's nothing, there isn't a team out there that you can say at this point, like the Spurs can't beat them. They've beaten all of them already. Maybe Phoenix, who they might see in the first round. So
yeah, I'm excited for the Jared Weiss Bowl. I'm rooting for that.
Yeah.
I want Celtic Spurs in the finals. Would it be the Cornette Bowl or would it be the
Cornette
Jared?
Bowl? It's the Cornette Bowl.
To the rest of the world, but to us, it'd be the Jared Weiss.
No, it's the Cornette Bowl because Cornette got to San Antonio before Jared did. That's
what
why.
Is he, a fucking Hall of Famer? I mean,
Yeah, it's true. Jared, what do you got cooking up? Anything that you want to give a shout out to the Illumination before you go?
Yeah, I've got a Luke Cornett Hall of Fame speech ready, but besides that, I've got a bigger Wemby piece coming in the next week or so. I'm heading to New York next week to try to finish that one off that I think will be pretty interesting. Just lately, you know what, the story off of the All-Star game and what Wemby did in the All-Star game and how that fits into his now kind of stated quest to become the face of the league, even if he's like, it has to happen organically, but you know, I think that one was really interesting. There's just been, you know what? I just had a story on Carter Bryant that I really love that people should give a read. Long story short is he grew up in the deaf community because his grandmother was deaf. And because of that, he played basketball with deaf kids growing up. And so he used to split his time between playing with hearing kids and deaf kids. And he used to think that half of the world was deaf. He didn't realize that it's actually a pretty small minority.
He had a skewed worldview because of his exposure to deaf people.
Yeah. And so he talked about how playing basketball with deaf kids is so unique because they can't communicate verbally while they're playing defense. So, you know, defense, the hallmark of defense is someone's guarding the ball, you're behind them, you yell, hey, screen's coming, watch out.
Mitch Josh is like, can you communicate, please, Carter? Yeah. He's like, I mean, I never needed to.
Yeah. And so like he explained how like they do all their communication in the huddles, you know, using ASL, and then they just have to trust each other to execute, and they have to defend extremely aggressively. So it's this very aggressive brand of basketball, and it's obviously chaotic because you can't communicate defensively effectively. Yeah. So he just learned so much about how to defend, how to trust, and we're seeing over this past month, after kind of getting knocked out of the rotation for a little bit, he's really starting to find his own and has had a lot of good games at this point. And is becoming like someone that I think is going to probably be in the postseason rotation. And now that we're seeing him play a little bit, those like shades of Kawhi are starting to come out. Like, wouldn't compare output and talent level to Kawhi. I mean, who knows? Carter has told me he wants to be the best player in the world, but like his cadence in his style has a lot of Kawhi to it. And there are some similarities there when you watch them play. So the Spurs are they need a 4 for the future. And Carter's starting to show some signs of him being that wing that could be their long-term starter as they eventually have to kind of turn over this roster. And we're already seeing this year, like Harrison Barnes has now fallen out of the starting lineup. He was the 4 before. Now they're starting Champagny and Vassell, but Carter, his defensive impact could be pretty monstrous. Like he could be one of the better wing defenders in the league, and he's got a shot that he's developing. He's becoming a good finisher. He's no longer missing every single dunk that he takes, including in the dunk contest. So Carter is like, there's so many guys to watch on this team. They have so much good young talent that Carter's been kind of just like hiding in plain sight, and he just really struggled for a while, but he's starting to come into his own. He could end up being like one of the important pieces of this team down the road.
I like this. I mean, there's no one that you would expect to have their third eye open more than someone who was raised in a deaf family. You know, you have to have 3 eyes open. You don't
have 2 ears.
That's right. Jared Weiss, also a guy who has his third eye open all the time. And telling truths left and right. Jared Weiss from The Athletic, thanks so much for joining us as a returnee, as a truth teller. Appreciate you always.
I didn't lie once.
No, you're just spitting truth nonstop. Hall of Famer, I would say.